What's going on, everybody? My name is Golfran Rivera. I was recently invited to give a talk at the Taking Off Pounds Sensibly group, and I thought I would share the talk that I intend to present with y'all because this is actually a topic that comes up frequently in my clinic. For those of you who don't know me, I do operate a family medicine clinic here in Fayetteville. And so I'm going to go ahead and share this talk with you that I've entitled Lift to Lose, where I hope to encourage you to begin to incorporate more strength training in your life to not only reach weight loss goals, but improve your overall health. So, in case some of y'all are just meeting me for the first time, once again, my name is Golfran Rivera. I am an Army trained physician assistant. I own and operate TrueCare DPC here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I offer family medicine and sports medicine care to my patients. I'm also certified through the International Sports Science Association as a fitness trainer, as a corrective exercise specialist, and as a nutrition coach. So, I want to start this off by addressing some common myths. So, the first thing here is that you hear often calories in versus calories out. And I know that this is a very controversial statement. I want to clarify some things. Look, it is the case that in the end, in order to gain or lose mass, there has to be a change in energy. So the amount of energy that's coming in has to exceed the amount of energy that's going out if you want to gain. And if you want to lose, the amount of energy coming in has to be less than the amount that's going out. This does not mean that all you have to do is count your calories. This doesn't mean that you just have to make sure that you move more than you eat. Why is that the case? Well, it's because nutrition labels are estimating calorie content. Online, when you look up the calorie content of your food, it's an estimation. And there's different variables that affect the actual amount of calories in a meal. Whether or not the food is raw or it's cooked, how it is actually cooked. And then there's the way that is utilized in the body depending on the kind of stimulus that your body is under. So the kind of training that you're doing, what you got going on outside of exercise, right? What's going on with your life stress levels, right? Whether or not you're male or female, your age, various different things are going to affect the way that you actually utilize calories. And the tools that we have, there's none that I'm aware of outside of the laboratories that really accurately and effectively gauge in on these calories. So the next thing that people think about is that exercise is really the most important piece about any weight loss program. And so people go into the gym and they slave away trying to, burn all those calories, right? Doing the calories in versus calories out thing. And then they're not getting where they want to get. And I think the reason for that is because it's not true that exercise is the most important. It's an important piece, but honestly, the things that we do outside of exercise. So whether you're working out at home or in the gym, it's what you're doing afterwards. It's the way that you're eating. It's whether or not you're getting enough sleep. It's whether or not you're in a peaceful state of mind. How your relationships are. Whether you're hydrated. Enough. So many things outside of that we have to think about. The third thing is that you have to lift weights to build strength. This is important that we understand this. Strength is about overcoming a force. It's not about weightlifting. There are strength programs that do have weightlifting in them, and that's great. But you can also develop strength with resistance bands. You can develop strength with just body weight. You can develop strength at in a local park. You can develop strength with things that you have at home. Okay, it doesn't have to be the iron that you get in the gym. The last thing that I'm going to talk about here is that people seem to think that cardio is the way to get thin and that weightlifting is what makes you big, right? Well, first of all, let's say this. If you want to get big, that's hard work, okay? The amount of food that needs to be eaten, the frequency that you have to lift, the volume of work that you have to do to really get big is actually quite challenging for most people. The other thing is that cardio doesn't automatically equal getting thin. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But if you look around, there are people that tell you that they ride their bike all the time, they run all the time, and they're still struggling to lose weight because it's not synonymous with weight loss. Okay. With that, let's talk about why strength training is the focus of this. Why am I encouraging you to get involved with strength? Well, see, the thing is I'm a medical practitioner, right? So there's more to health than just weight, and there's definitely more to health than just the weight on the scale and the fat that we have. Fat does play a role in our health, but there's more to it than that. First of all, strength training enhances our metabolic health. How does it do that? When you train your body to be strong, you're training your nervous system to become more efficient. You're training your muscles to better utilize energy, so you're better take up blood sugar, which makes, because it's more sensitive to insulin, which then reduces your risk of things like diabetes or polycystic ovarian syndrome, right? And this in turn has a cascade of effects throughout the body, regulating different kinds of hormones. This is part of, we believe, is partly why strength training has been shown to improve mental health and reduce the risks of chronic diseases. And then, of course, if you're less likely to experience things like a depressive state or an anxious state, and if you're less likely to experience chronic disease, you're more likely to experience an enhanced quality of life. And then, of course, 5 and 6, strength training increases the strength of your muscles and the muscle mass. And this is, again, what I mentioned. This is what contributes to that enhanced metabolic health. But it's also, I'll get into it a little bit more in just a second, but it's also part of why strength training can be so effective at fat loss, okay? And then lastly, and this is really important, we're all, as we age, we're at increased risk of fragility injuries, fragility fractures, which is basically that our bones are weak and brittle. We fall, and it all goes downhill from there. Strength training not only makes the muscles stronger, makes the bones stronger, reducing our risk of fragility fractures as we get older. Now let's compare aerobic exercise versus strength training, because like I said, that fourth myth, right, about cardio. Look, aerobics exercise is great. This is not a thing about why you shouldn't do aerobics. Look, you can improve your cardiovascular health, which is important, right? Your ability to pump, for your heart to pump blood to where it needs to go, to clear waste. It improves your immune system. And if we compare how much energy and fat is being utilized during exercise, aerobic exercise tends to take the cake here. And this is because a key component, a key ingredient in fat loss is oxygen consumption. And aerobic exercise, by definition, utilizes a lot of oxygen. But the interesting thing is that if you compare this to strength training, strength training actually results in more energy used throughout the day outside of exercise. This is because the metabolic breakdown that happens and the recovery that has to take place requires a lot of oxygen. And we call this phenomenon the excess post exercise oxygen consumption. So EPOC, okay? This epoch is what really makes strength training so phenomenal. The workout itself may not appear to be as intense when you're not sweating as much, your heart rate isn't as high as when you were doing aerobic exercise, but the net benefit, and you see this bottom point here, is it has been shown that it results in greater fat loss when compared to aerobic exercise, because you're producing more lean body mass, which is more expensive, and that actually increases your resting metabolic rate, which is the rate of metabolism that you have just to be alive, because muscle is expensive. And so your body has to choose whether or not to hold on to fat for that next run that you do, or to start burning it down so that it can use it to feed this muscle. That's an oversimplification, but I just want to illustrate the point to you. This benefit that comes from strength training may not be in the workout itself, but as you're going along through your day to day. So which should you choose? I recommend both. Like I said, it's not a this versus that kind of thing. And this study that looked at 89 different studies, it found that combining resistance training with aerobic exercise and restricting calories over the course of 14.6 weeks is what they calculated, you would lose an average of 11 to 12 pounds of actual fat. And I don't think that's anything to scoff at. So, some keys to success here. These are taken from the American College of Sports Medicine. 2 to 3 times a week of resistance training. All right, you get a benefit from just 2 to 3 times a week. 8 to 10 multi-joint movements. What does that mean? Not a bicep curl, but like a pull-up where you involve your wrists, your elbows, and your shoulder, right? Not leg extensions, but squats where you're involving the ankles, the knees, the thighs. So 8 to 10 of these multi-joint movements throughout the 2 to 3 times a week. Always remember the hard but doable concept. One of the things that people tend to get wrong is they go in and they can casually exercise, have conversations, texting on their phone while they're on the bicycle or whatever. And that's great. You're getting movement, and that's awesome. But if you really want to get the benefit of the strength training, you got to do something that is hard, but you can still do it. Every set, the last few repetitions, you should be trembling as you're moving that weight, whatever it is, whether it's a band, whether you're doing a push-up. That last repetition, the last few, always hard but doable. And lastly, have fun and stick with it. Okay, consistency is key when it comes to getting healthy, and when it comes to losing fat and reaching your weight loss goals. You can't overstate the importance of consistency. Change takes time. So have fun, find something that you like so you can have fun with it and stick with it. So here's some final thoughts as I close this out. You want to focus on strength. Notice I said nothing about physique. That's because if you focus on strength, physique will follow. Okay? Strength training has been shown. When you're comparing the two together between strength training and aerobics, strength has been shown to be more effective at fat loss, but a combination of both is best. And the last thing I want to remind you of, you can do hard things. So don't let the idea of having to push through in the strength training program, whichever you choose to do, don't let that discourage you. You can do hard things. And with that, these are some of the sources that I used for this presentation. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put it in the comment sections below. And again, I appreciate you guys taking the time. God bless y'all, and have a wonderful day.